First featured in February, our series about the state's sex offender registry. It exposed flaws in the system that lump dangerous predators in the same category with people who pose no threat to the public. Today, Governor Rick Snyder signed a bill that brings our state's registry up to federal standards. It will group offenders into 3 tiers, Tier 3 being the most dangerous. Tonight, we're focusing in on people who can now, because of this legislation, get off the list, the so-called Romeo and Juliet offenders. 24 Hour News 8's Crystal Hilliard joins us live from Studio Control now with more on the story of one man whose life just changed dramatically, Crystal.
Brian, these offenders can't just hop off the list July 1st. They have to go through a process that begins with a petition. But not everyone thinks this is such a great idea.
I won't get weird looks walking down the street. Just if people see me and they notice me from the registry, they give me weird looks, so I won't get that anymore.
Looking for a job or going to see his kids at school has been more difficult for Rick McQuillan than most men his age. That's because when he was 17, he had consensual sex with a 15-year-old girl and wound up here on Michigan Sex Offender Registry. She wasn't old enough to legally consent.
That's basically all it was. Young kid having his first sexual experience, and just didn't think of it at the time.
But today, Governor Snyder signed legislation into law that may give McQuillan a second chance. Starting July 1st, he can petition to get off this list since they were both teenagers within 4 years of each other, and it was consensual.
Each case really has to be looked at individually.
Tom Cottrell, a therapist of more than 20 years, acknowledges Romeo-Juliet cases like McQuillan's do exist. However,
youthful victims at 13 or 14, for example, may look at the assault one way or may look at the sexual experience one way. 3 years later, they may look at it a totally different way.
Which means the new law could make for some problems here, but also bring hope here.
And this time I'm a little more optimistic because they passed that law, so I'm more excited.
Now, just to be clear, this new law does not mean McQuillan or anyone else convicted of a similar crime or of this crime will no longer be a felon. They just won't be on the sex offender registry. Meanwhile, McQuillan expects to hear back from the judge July 22nd. Live in Studio Control tonight, Crystal Hilliard, 24 Hour News 8.